Welcome back to the Lars Larson Show. It's a pleasure to be with you, and I'm always glad to get to your calls, but I want to get right to Tom Fitton, who is the president of Judicial Watch, because I know he's going to have some insights into the court filing that happened this week, and a lot of us were following it as all of this came out, that John Durham had filed what looked like a fairly routine filing saying there might be a conflict of interest of having a firm called Latham representing Michael Sussman, who was an attorney at Perkins Coie, which is sort of the House law firm for the Democrat Party, and that he went to the FBI and lied to them and said, I'm here on behalf of no client in particular, when in fact his client was the DNC and Hillary. And gee, we found some computer information that might indicate that Donald Trump is secretly communicating with, I know this sounds crazy, secretly communicating with Vladimir Putin through servers, computer servers in Trump Tower and computer servers at a place called Alpha Bank in Russia. On that note, Tom, welcome back to the program, by the way. This one takes, 5 minutes to explain just to get you up to the point where Durham then says, gee, and some of this surveillance of computer traffic looked not only at private citizen and candidate Donald Trump, but it also surveilled the executive office of the president of the United States. What should Americans make of that?
Well, you had the Clinton operation, the Democratic Party operation, spying on Donald Trump and the executive office of the president while he was president of the United States. And then they took that information and walked over to the CIA with it. Of course, I'm not aware of the CIA blowing the whistle or doing anything to expose what went on. So on top of the FBI spying on Trump, on top of all of these government agencies abusing Trump and his colleagues, you had Hillary Clinton's operatives. It's not clear who was paying who and how, but it looked like through her law firm, her campaign's law firm, were misusing a government contract to gain access to this data, which is typically not easily not easily available to the public, to spy on Trump, not only in the executive office of the president, but his family and others innocent Americans at the Trump organization, and working with the CIA on it in some fashion. It's incredible. Nothing we learn about what happened to Trump makes anything look less innocent. It makes it look more criminal.
Yeah, it does. And I guess I've had a number of skeptics call me up and say, listen, nothing's going to come of this except the indictment of Sussman. And I said, I kind of think Sussman's going to want to roll over and not go to federal prison. And I would imagine that Tech Executive One and Tech Company One may be anxious not to be implicated in something that is criminal activity, isn't it, Tom? If I were to hack into the Judicial Watch computers, if I had a friend, we can hack in, we'll see what Tom isn't telling us. If I did that even with the best of motives, but without your permission, I'm committing a federal crime for which I can go to prison for 10 years, right?
Potentially, that is criminal. The specific crimes, I'm not going to pretend to have the federal code in front of me. But government contractors who have government contracts using the auspices of that government power, practically speaking, to spy on Americans, I don't think you need to explain why that might be illegal. And we can all think of various crimes that might apply to that. The question is, who knew what and when about it? Who approved it? And, there's no doubt Hillary Clinton. I was tweeting yesterday, the Hillary Clinton tweets. I said, save this. This is evidence of a crime. Because she showed that she knew and was in on this scheme to lie about Trump being somehow involved through computers with Russia. The only person who was involved with Russia in that campaign, it looks like, in terms of having a relationship, was Hillary Clinton, whose Fusion GPS hired a Russian operative to fabricate, it looks like, this dossier against Trump. And this Russian operative has been indicted by Durham. Well, I don't know what Durham's going to do with this. Is he going to move forward? My only hesitation is you've got Durham pretending that the FBI was gamed by Hillary Clinton.
Which begs credulity,
he needs to be focusing as much on the government actors as he is the Hillary Clinton's actors. But plus it's been 3 years, so he needs to get moving, that's for sure. So your friends are right to be suspicious, but these are positive developments, and If they're the beginning, it's good. If it's the end, it's bad.
Okay, how about two names in particular? As I understand it, the point of contact in the Clinton campaign for Tech Executive One was none other than Jake Sullivan, who's the current national security advisor to the President of the United States. And at the time, the president was vice president, and that Obama and Biden were briefed in that Hillary Clinton is trying to push this Russia narrative. Whether the FBI was really such a pushover bunch, they said, yeah, they told us this stuff, and we didn't even bother to check on it. They briefed in the president and the vice president at the time, who's now president of the United States. So did they know what was going on?
Well, at least they should be questioned. Jake Sullivan was also pushing this big lie about Trump and Russia. So he was lying about Russia, and now we're expected to believe that he's telling the truth about Russia because he's in a different position. I don't buy it. Jake Sullivan has been compromised, and, these times are too sensitive for someone like that to be anywhere near the position he's in.
I also wonder, Tom, I'm talking to Tom Fitton, the president of Judicial Watch, whether by kind of shaking the trees, he didn't have to include some of the details this was just a routine filing about conflict of interest, yet he puts in the information about the executive office of the president of the United States being surveilled. Is that an attempt to shake the trees and have some people who know they're implicated in this because they knew what was going on and they knew that it was illegal or knew it was wrong at the very least, that some of these people and their attorneys are going to be on the phone to Durham right about now saying, if you're looking at my client's willing to tell you more if you'll get us off the hook. Is that happening right now?
I don't know what Durham's doing. I mean, he is playing government prosecutor in the sense that he's playing hardball against attorneys who are playing games with him. He called out the inspector general for withholding information from his investigation. And I think he's probably frustrated by the obstruction he's getting from not only the folks he's supposed to be investigating in the government, but the lawyers who are compromised, according to Durham, who shouldn't be anywhere near this case. So I think it's more of the internal fights he's having with people behind the scenes that are kind of erupting publicly, as opposed to trying to scare people publicly. I mean, everyone who's there or implicated in that filing, they all knew. They all knew what they did, and they all know, and probably have been already before, Sussman's investigators have been contacted. I mean, for instance, Sussman's top.
I hate to say it, but I'm up against the clock at the top of the hour. That's Tom Fitton, the president of Judicial Watch. Tom, thank you very much for the time. We're going to be watching this one closely, even if the rest of the media is studiously trying to ignore the story altogether. Bigger than Watergate.